Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Gaur Premanand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning. So today we have a monumental task to cover 2 chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, which perhaps is the most amazing canto of the cantos. We have to do it in 40 minutes. And these 2 chapters are extraordinary for many reasons. This is the Lord Brahma who's stealing the calves and cowherd boys of Krishna. So what is that really? It's kidnapping. So it's don't use that word so much. We use stealing. He stole them. But not in the fearful way that when we hear the word kidnapping. But this pastime is so full of various layers of absolute extraordinary Leela of Krishna, or the pastimes of Krishna, and his interactions, and his revealing his heart to Brahma, and to all of us who are so fortunate now to be able to sit down and contemplate these chapters. They are also filled with, you could say, some of our highest understandings of our philosophy in the prayers of Lord Brahma. Each one of those prayers, 40 or 50, we could speak days upon, and many of these verses became some of Srila Prabhupada's most quoted verses, and especially Jnane Prayasya Mudapasyanamanta Eva. He would use these prayers of Brahma over and over and over again to explain the difference between life in the material world and life as a spiritual person. So they're so important. And apart from that, apart from the depth of those two things, Krishna's extraordinary Leela and Lord Brahma's extraordinary presentation of Krishna consciousness, or the consciousness of understanding that we are part and parcel of Krishna. Beyond that, we have Srila Prabhupada's wonderful presentation in the Krishna book, as well as here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But also of note is that chapter 13, where Lord Brahma is stealing the cows and the calves, it was the last written work of Srila Prabhupada. And then chapter 14, where we begin the prayers of Brahma, is when his disciples took up that work to finish Srimad Bhagavatam, so that we all can fully dive into Srimad Bhagavatam's topics. So the vastness of these two chapters, I could say we could just talk about that all day, but I thought we would first go a little bit through the pastime itself, so that you have an understanding. What is this pastime? What is this Lord Brahma stealing? Lord Brahma, we've heard in the second canto, third canto, he can create anything. He's the creator. He takes all the energies that Krishna has bestowed, and he manipulates it, and he creates the material universe. So what business does he have in stealing? He's creator, you could say. He has everything. So why? So this actually began in the previous chapter. And yesterday, did you discuss Agasura? Agrajan? Yeah. What do you hear about Agasura? It's smelly, huh? What else? Yes, Gopi.
They did mention at the end, why was this pastime only disclosed a year later?
Yeah, and that was that's when you can tell when people are listening to your class, right? When you say something and then somebody asks a question. Well, you just said, Sukadev, that for a whole year, Krishna ended this pastime at Poganda, or is it the other way around? Komara. And then he was, all of a sudden, next time he was seen, he was Poganda. He was a year later. And so it was a test for Pariksha, and Pariksha, why is there a whole year gap in there? We're hearing his pastimes as a 5-year-old. Now we're hearing as a 6-year-old. What happened? What's going on in between? And so that's the lead into this chapter. But another extraordinary thing happened, that when Krishna reawakened his cowherd boy, and this floating soul of Aghasura was there, and went into his body, and it was such a scene that not only those who were physically present saw it, but also the demigods, those celestials. Was saying the Apsaras and the Gandharvas, they were singing and they were dancing and they were throwing flowers, and there were kettle drums pounding. That this was such an amazing. So Brahma, he's very busy. He's the manager of the entire universe. Some of you here are managers, and just managing some of the affairs at Krishna House is quite consuming, and you're busy. So he just imagine the whole universe as your Krishna House to manage. And so, but he heard this noise, and he looked, and he said, what's going on? So that's the lead into this chapter. And so Krishna was just so happy again to have his friends back in his midst, and they were just started joking and chiding. And Krishna's, he's just really diving into this bhava, you could say the bhava, but it's the do something like kill a demon, or he would just rather get pinned. Anybody wrestle when you're young and you pin your person and they're supposed to say uncle, or they say I give up, or I yield, and he would rather get pinned by Subal or Sridham than to deal with these demigods and this universal stuff and creation and Prityanaya sadhanam. Yes, I got to do that. I know I have to do that. But right now, I just want to play. And so it opens this scene of Krishna they're just playing. And it's just such a wonderful, you heard a little bit prior, when they go out, they steal each other's lunch bags and they make others cry, and then they give it back. And so here, what is in the lunch bags? So Krishna, they were wandering after the Aghasura. They kind of left that. Okay, we're done with this. Let's go. What else are we going to do? Let's go to the Yamuna. And they go to the Yamuna, and the calves can drink here. And let's sit. Oh, it's lunchtime. I don't think he had a watch, but they just, it's lunchtime now. And this is a beautiful, look at how beautiful the Vrindavan forest is. It just opened up this nice area. And so they all sit down in this, and Krishna is described as the whorl, or the center of a lotus flower. So if anybody's seen a lotus flower, these beautiful petals, they're so flowing and open, but in the middle there's this bright yellow thing. It's kind of almost looks like a shower head, but it's called the whorl of that lotus flower. And so your attention goes to that. And so everyone's attention was on Krishna. And some of the most amazing things were that even though there was Krishna with Manu Mangal and Sridham and Subal, and they were like the closest to Krishna, and then there was others, Raktak and Patchak, and then there was another circle and another circle and another circle. But none of them felt, oh, I'm on the outer circle. They're all feeling, I'm sitting right with Krishna, and Krishna's, they're trading. What did your mom pack today? I remember we used to get, these cupcakes. It was like these packaged cupcakes when I was a kid. It was like, if somebody had two of them and they'd want to share at lunch, it was a blast. If you ever shared lunch at school with your friends, it's such a loving exchange. A few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago, we were in one of the Saranagati sessions. We were hearing about these loving exchanges between the devotees, and one of that is the giving and exchanging prasad. And so this is to the heightened zenith of this sharing prasadam is with Krishna. And there's a picture of this. There's there's an old picture of that. And the original one was somehow or other, it ended up in Gitanagari. When I lived there, I used to chant before that picture. And the amazing thing about that picture is that even just the viewer of that picture, you feel like you are part of that circle. It's amazing. And so this is how Krishna is reciprocating with every one of his cowherd boyfriend. He's just so much enjoying it. And Krishna, young boys, when we're young, do we follow a lot of rules? Do we always wash our hands before we, eat? Or do we, sometimes it's just like you dropping. If the mother was there, it was like, oh no, you don't do that, don't do that. No, don't do it. But Krishna's holding his food in his left hand, and he's got pickles, and he's got things in between his fingers, and he's kind of like this, and somebody will come and reach over, oh, Krishna tried this, and they'll put it into Krishna's mouth, and this is good. And so this is going on, and this is just churning and churning. And so there's an important verse in this chapter that Krishna, so Brahma is watching this, and Brahma, his relationship with Krishna is so different than these cowherd boys. And it's described in other places, and it's described in the second canto, it's described in the third canto. Brahma is the servant of Krishna. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajam. He's Ishvara Parama Krishna. You are the supreme personality Godhead. You are the cause of all causes. This is Brahma's vision of Krishna. But now he's seeing, all the demigods came. We prayed to Mahavishnu, to Shivadakshay Vishnu. He's going to come, and I was told he's going to come into Paritanaya Saranam. He's going to get rid of the demons. So he's envisioning this Ishvara Parama Krishna is going to come down and destroy the demons. But here, he knows, he has some knowledge. Well, this is Krishna, but Krishna, he is known as Yagyabhuk. Which verse is that? No, I can't find it. But there's a verse in that 13th canto that he is known as Yagyabhuk. And Yagyabhuk means he eats from the offering of sacrifice. So a supreme person, you can just imagine, he eats through the sacrifice of brahmanas, through offering oblations into the fire. This is how Krishna eats. This is how the supreme Ishvara Parama eats. That is Brahma's conception. And so he's thinking, Yagyabhuk, and he's got food in his left hand? I don't know if it's still there in ISKCON today, but it used to be like if you ever ate with your left hand, you were like, wow, you're really uncultured. And so he's seeing this Yagyabhuk eating with his left hand, and not only that, they weren't offering, they didn't say the mantra before they put it in his mouth, that the pickle or the whatever it was, they're just throwing it in his mouth. And then say Idam Krishnaya, and then give it to him. No, they're just giggling, and sometimes they come up behind him and shove something in his mouth, and he's laughing, and they're just having this great time. So Brahma, he's thinking, well, is this Ishvara Parama? Is this Krishna? He's scratching his heads. He's got more than one head. He's got a scratch. He's got a few heads to scratch, and so he said, well, let me do so. So he said, okay, I know they're very focused on the calves. So he enticed the calves away, and then he took the calves away. And so while the cowherd boys and Krishna were eating, they noticed the calves are gone. Where are the calves? And so this, again, they were just recently given control of the calves. After begging and begging and begging, Krishna would beg Nanda, and they didn't want to let him go. They didn't want to let him take care of the calves. One day Nanda saw Krishna. He was whispering something in Upananda's ear. And they were having this conversation on the side. And Nanda came up to Upananda. He said, Krishna never talks to me like that. What was he saying? He says, well, Krishna was telling me in confidence of it. No, please tell me. He said, he just doesn't know why you won't let him take care of the calves. He just wants to go. So, okay. He convinced them through. This is how things are done in Vrindavan. They're done through politics. And you tell somebody else something, and then that gets around. Okay, all right, we'll do it that way. So those are transcendental politics. It's not like our politics where it's a lot of nastiness involved. But so then finally we'll let him go. And then there was a whole. You hear the pastime on Gopastami a lot of times. This whole arrangements by Yasoda and Nanda to have Krishna take. But in any case, I'm getting off track here. So they're thinking that we were just given this huge, and if we've lost them, they'll never let us come out again. And just see how much fun we've been having. We just killed this amazing snake. And now it's this great plaything we can play on. Every time we come out in the forest, we can play on this snake. But they won't let us go out if we've lost the calves. They're just going to keep us home again. So there were an anxiety, and Krishna saw that, and he said, don't be anxiety. You just sit here and keep eating. I will go find the calves. And so Krishna gets up, and he still has his rice and yogurt and pickles in his finger in his left hand, and he's out walking around, and he's looking, and it's described. He went in the caves, he went into the hills and the valleys. He was looking everywhere. So again, if we look at this with an eye of, well, Krishna's God, he knows everything, he's in the heart of everything. Why is he going through all this? Why is he going through all this? He just knows. You could have just said, oh yeah, Brahma stole them, and then all of a sudden they're back. He could have done that. He is the controller of all Shaktis. And so that Isha Shakti, this is Brahma sees him, Ishvara Parama, the supreme control, the Isha Shakti, he has at his fingertips. At any time, he can do anything with his Isha Shakti. But the extraordinary thing about Krishna is that he allows his other Shaktis to cover him. He himself becomes covered. And so his Satya Sankalpa Shakti, Sankalpa is what you want, is what you want to do. So it may surprise you that Krishna also wants to do things that he likes. Because many times we have conception of God that, well, God is that person we pray to, and he's up there and he's hearing the prayers and he's delivering. It's like Amazon, here it is, here's yours, here's yours, here's yours. That's a conception, you could say a lower conception of God, that he is the supreme, the supreme Amazon, but he's just giving and giving and giving. But he doesn't, what does he want? What's his satya count? What's his sankalpa consist of? He wants to be beat up, and he wants to carry the winners on his shoulders. He wants to play, he wants to make sounds like peacocks, he wants to make funny faces like the monkeys. This is what Krishna wants to do. And he doesn't want to even remember. So his Satya Sankalpa covers his Isha Shakti, and he covers his other Shaktis, his all-knowing part, he gets covered by that. And why? And who's the helper? Not Yoga Maya is helping to do this, is helping to cover these things. So, and it's such an orchestration, you could say, if you've ever gone to an incredible orchestra, like, many, not just a small one, but a huge, and there's one person, he's directing and he's saying, you guys now on this, and let's have some wind and let's have some strings. And it's just amazing when you see how expert they are. So this is what's happening with all the Krishna Shaktis. They're all being orchestrated for this amazing pastime where bewilderment, not only Brahma is bewildered, but anybody would be bewildered hearing some of these pastimes of Srimad. And that's what Queen Kunti says. Oh, it's certainly bewildering that you're the unborn, but you've been born. Let's just start at that. How could the unborn be born? It's bewildering. So this is exactly, but for why? For what purposes? For Krishna's pleasure. So his sankalpa, what he wants to do, he just wants to play. He just wants to play, but now he's got to go. So he's going out, and he's still covered, you could say. Still covered by that. I gotta please, I don't want to lose this opportunity to go out every day with my friends. We got to find the calves. Let me go find them. I don't want to disturb my friends. It's a real feeling. It's not just he's not just acting. It's a real feeling. And so he goes out, and then he can't find them, and he's bewildered, and then he goes back, and the boys are now gone. Same place he was just at. The boys are now all gone. Then he thinks a bit of it. Okay, yes, this is Brahma. And so and the descriptions are very detailed. He expands into all the exact boys and calves, exactly how they dress, how they act. Somebody would have a twitch, or somebody would have a certain giggle, or somebody has a certain way they tie their dhoti, everything exactly to it. And this began this festival in Vrindavan for one whole year. This festival that previously the fathers, the mothers, the cows, they would always be looking at Krishna, and they loved their children. It's not that they didn't love their children, but they loved their children in relationship to Krishna. And this may be hard to conceive of until you're a parent. But if you think about it for a moment, if somebody is very dear to you, like a child or a best friend, and they're friends of somebody that is just, whoa, is an amazing person, then you love to see that interaction going on. You love to see, you can imagine the mother of Raktak or somebody, and they say, oh, how's Krishna today? What did Krishna do today? And the topic is Krishna, but they're hearing it through their loved one, and they love to see their loved one interact with that Krishna, with that personality. So previously that was their appreciation of their children, but now it was actually Krishna himself disguised or expanded as their children, as their cows, and no more were they looking at Krishna, looking at Krishna through their child. They were seeing Krishna directly, and they got that same bliss that Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, and all the cows would have, that in their interactions with Krishna, they got that same taste, that same love, and then it just increased day after day after day, just as Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna increased day after day after day. And so why did Krishna do this? He didn't want to go back without these, because he knew the heartbreak of the residents of Vrindavan, and he also wanted to teach Brahma a lesson, because you have just crossed the line, buddy. You could say, you just crossed into something that you don't understand. And so he did this for a whole year, and as calves grow and boys grow and they start to grow and they start to mature, you don't see it so much in children in 1 year. You certainly see some growth, but with calves, they're practically become full grown in 1 year's time. And so one day on the Govardhan hill, the cowherd men were with these now with all the cows, and Krishna was down below with the calves. And when the cows saw their calves, who again were none other than Krishna himself, expanded, they just bolted down the hill. And you can imagine the surprise of all the cowherd men. And then the cowherd men were chasing them, because they're cowards. They herd cows, and these cows were now unherded, and so they were running down the hill to their grown-up children. They had another set of calves, even younger, that may be more in need, but they just started licking and caressing these older calves, which were now cows and bulls, perhaps. And they were, and the men, they were a little angry at first that somehow or other we couldn't control them. But when they got down, they saw their boys. The same emotion overtook them. Here's my son. Let me just embrace them. Let me smell their head. It's an affectionate thing that you just love to cuddle with your children. And so Balaram, who happened to not be there because it was one of his nakshatra, it was one of his birthdays. So he wasn't there on that day that Krishna went out. So there are birthdays, there are actual annual birthdays, but there are also nakshatra birthdays according to different, constellations and movements and different months and things. So there's many birthdays that can be observed. So this was one of them. Whether or not it was this annual, it doesn't explain that. But we hear often that it was on this birthday of Balaram. So many different pastimes happened, but it's not all on the same single day. It's kind of spread out. But in any case, Balaram was like, "What's going on? There's something going on here, Krishna. What is happening? It seems to me that you're doing something extraordinary." And so Krishna revealed, yes, this is what happened. And Balaram was a little angry. He said, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?" He said, "Oh, I had to keep this up. I had to." So he was a little angry, but in any case, he said, just to give it a few more days. We'll take care of this. So in the meantime, Brahma, whose time factor is different, when the upper planetary system, their time factor is much different. It goes much slower to our time. So when he took the calves and the cowherd boys and they put them, sometimes it says a cave, or you put them in yoga nidra, they were sleeping. So it's not that they were even conscious of what was going on. They were in a state of meditative sleep, you could say. And so they were put away. And but Brahma, he knew if he indeed is Ishvara, Sarva. If he indeed is Ishvara Sarva, then I better not let this sit too long. Let me get back pretty quick. So in just a moment, just as he just put him back, and he just turned around to go back and take a look. But it had already been the year and our time period. And so when he saw, and this is why it was good he had 4 heads, because he saw this, and then he was also looking at and he just kept going back and forth in his mind. There's this group and this group, they look exactly the same. He was analyzing, what is going on? What is going on? And so he understood at that moment. So then he knew he did something wrong. And so Krishna then revealed to him this secret, that because Brahma, he came upon the same scene of Krishna taking lunch with all of other Krishnas sitting together, although they looked like the cowherd boys and calves. And so Brahma, but then all of a sudden, as he was looking at this scene, they turned into Vishnu forms. And then each one of those Vishnu forms were surrounded by Krishna's vibhutis, by his opulences. And so not only did he see the forms of Vishnu, he also saw the material elements. He saw the 3 gunas. He saw everything. It was practically, he was seeing the universal form. And he saw all the ingredients that Brahma himself uses to create with. And so now he said, well, yeah, there's Ishwar, there he is. And so, but then in a moment, they all just disappeared again. And there was Krishna again alone with a lump of food in his hand and pickles in his fingers. And he was just standing there. And there was Brahma, shaking, bewildered. And he just, it's described, just kept falling down like a rod, falling down again and again. And he had 4 heads. So it's not that he couldn't even get every head to the ground, and he was just trying to get every head, but he was trying to get every head, but he was also happy because then he could, with his upper heads, he could still see Krishna. He could see Krishna's face. So he was a little happy in that. But then we're only going to give a summary. We're not even going to get into any of these prayers. But then these prayers came. This outflowing of Brahma's real, like, okay, I know what I've done now, and I do understand your Ishvara, but this Krishna I don't understand. And he says, some people will say, yes, I know Krishna, I know that Ishvara is this and he has this potencies, and sometimes we can align a lot of our philosophy in our head and we can kind of get it, and okay, I can explain it. But do we really know? Brahma says, no, I don't know a thing about you. And all these prayers were going and going. It's such a wonderful chapter. To read these prayers and to some of them, and the one we were, you put the picture up, thank you. So the one we were supposed to cover today, Tate Nukampam Shishamikshamano Bhujana Eva Makripavakam Hridvagva Pravir Vididan Namaste Jiveti Yomukti Pade Sadayabak. So because he's coming from a point that I've just made a big mistake. It's coming from this angle. I have just made a big mistake, and I'm going to have to suffer for this mistake. And what is the suffering? That I can't enter these Vrindavan pastimes. I can't give up this conception of you as the supreme controller. But doesn't mean that, but I will, with my body, mind, and words, constantly and earnestly, the word is earnest, I will earnestly remain your servant, even though I may have to suffer for actions or reactions from my past deeds. And so this is the mood of, you could say, the acharyas and the devotees that this verse particularly reminds me of a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sharanagati, where he is describing that, yes, Krishna, Maro Virakovi, you may kill me or you may let me live. That's okay, that doesn't matter. But just let me remain your servant. And what kind of servant? That also doesn't matter. I could be Bahir Mukh Brahma. I don't want to be Bahir Mukh Brahma. I don't want to be Brahma anymore if I cannot have my face and attention to you, Bahir Mukh. I don't want to be that Brahma anymore. I would rather be a Kito or Jamanaho. Encapsulation of this verse and this mood of the devotees, and so when we approach these two chapters, this is what our conclusion should be. These are the conclusions that we should come to, that Krishna, I am bewildered every moment practically of my life. That I'm still thinking I am a person, I have a job at the university, I do this and I do that, and I am this person, and I have this. I'm bewildered by all this external activities, and I've lost sight of who you really are and my relationship with you. So let me focus, please let me focus. I will continue. Namaste. I go to word for word, please. Yes. Vapur bir, vak hrit, with our heart, with our words, and our body. So that means when we think, what is in our heart usually manifests in our mind, if we are able to connect with that. The chitta, it is called the chitta. What is really what our desires are will manifest. If in my heart I can have that determination of being your servant, then perhaps it will manifest in my actions, in my body, or in my words. First of all, I will be able to offer prayers. Manasa deha jeha gujo kichu mana. Everything I have is yours, Krishna. Just engage me in your service. And then, if in the heart and our words these are manifesting, then we will actually be able to act. Because prakritam hridi sadhyata, in the heart of every one of us is this potential, is this the relationship with Krishna, and that potentiality is there. And how do we get it? Kriti sadhya, by acting with our words and our body. We act in sadhana bhakti. Kriti sadhya, bhavet sadhya. And what is that? What is the giving? Is giving sasadhanadi be? It is giving pure devotional service to Krishna. So we act, we think, and we feel. Thinking, feeling, and willing is the three terms that you could say. Is that these things, when they're focused on Krishna, then they will deliver us. They will bring us. And so you can imagine. And so hopefully this gives you a little encouragement or a little desire to like, I want to really dive into these two chapters, because it is full of this, these nuances of Krishna bhakti. And again, that's just one of those 40 or 50 verses of Brahma, and each one of them are so important, have been used so much in all the acharyas' teachings of what Krishna consciousness is. And so what happened? So Brahma, he was there, and Krishna did not say a single word. You can just imagine when you get somebody upset and they're just standing, and you're talking and talking, and they're just sitting, and Krishna started to smile, but he didn't say anything. So Jiva Goswami says, why did Krishna smile? Anybody have a guess of why he smiled? You'll never guess, but try. Yes.
He was happy for Brahma that he was coming from the state of Bhakti, but here was God, the state of being favorable with Krishna.
Yes, the Ishvara Krishna would certainly agree with you. Yes.
Can you get back to his friends now?
Yes, that's part of it. He was smiling because he saw this person with 4 heads. He was speaking with one mouth, but the sound was coming from all 4 of them. And he was like, he was just amazed that because he immediately, after his Isha Shakti dissipated, he went right back into the Satya Sankalpa Shakti. And he was just a cowherd boy. And so just as when they saw Aghasura, this amazing thing, they just, wow, look at this amazing plaything. He saw a 4-headed person. They'd never seen a 4-headed person. And he's speaking out of one mouth, but the sound is coming from all 4. And so he's like, he's sitting, he's smiling. Because again, this is what Krishna really wants to do. And this is where at the end, Brahma says, I need to leave. I cannot be here anymore. I fully understand. But let me please, again, in the mood that Bhaktivinoda Thakur appreciates, let me take another birth in a more suitable situation. And what is that suitable situation? A clump of grass here in Vrindavan. So that I can get the dust of the feet of the devotees when they walk around. So this is these 2 chapters, these monumental chapters in a summary, and we actually have a little time. If there are any thoughts on this, any questions on this? I do have some other things, Brahma's point of view, but yes.
I have a question regarding the all the gopas and the cows feeling more affection for the children when they were Krishna. So they didn't knew this was Krishna, and the boys had the same mannerisms that they had. Krishna was imitating the same mannerisms. So what is it that was evoking this deeper attraction to their children now? Was it like this? There was some difference in how they moved, or
they were Krishna. There were no, and this was the exact question that Parikshit asked. After Sukadev ended, at the end of that 14th chapter, Parikshit asked a question: how is it that they had this love? That if we had time, we can go into it deeply, but look it up and you can hear the purports of the acharyas in there. But one of the examples given is Stavaram Jaganam Deki, Tada Deki No, that's a different verse. Stavaram Jaganam Deki Tara Murti, Savatra Hai Nija Ishtadeva Spuriti. That the pure devotee, those who are pure, those, again, residents of Vrindavan, they don't see forms like we see. Either Stavaram, things that are stationary, or Jaganam, those things that are movable. We see trees and we see cars and we see people and we see animals, and they're moving or they're not moving. They don't see that. Nadeki Taramurti. They don't see that form. They see their Ishtadeva within them. They see their Ishtadeva spuriti. Their vision is that so although their children, when they're seeing their children as their children and their friends of Krishna, they're seeing them as expansions of Krishna's pleasure potency. But when Krishna is actually their children, in this case, there's still no difference. Their seeing of their children is still there. But we can't deny that Krishna himself is giving them special mercy by letting his lips touch their breasts and his hands touching their face and hugging them and cuddling with them. There's no denying that Krishna himself was also giving some special mercy to them. And so, yes, they immediately their attention, which always is their attention anyway, Stavaram, whether they're seeing one thing or another, they're all seeing it Krishna. But in this case, it was, again, we have a problem because we're analyzing this in an analytical way. Well, I know it says right here, they weren't really, Krishna, or they weren't really the boy, but they're seeing a whole different, their view is a whole different viewing. Is that probably more confusing? But that exact question and answer is given at the end of the chapter. Yes, Gopi.
Might be mistaken, but I think this is the last purports that Prabhupada.
The 13th chapter.
13th.
Yeah, we mentioned that in the beginning.
Oh.
The 13th chapter of the bulk of the pastime of Krishna eating with his cowherd boyfriends. Those were the last, and then the prayers of Brahma were the first of the disciples. But of course, we have the whole Krishna book, and you can all these purports are saying Krishna, Srila Prabhupada says in Krishna book, or they're taking from the Acharya's commentaries. Yes.
Krishna, I really like the point where you made with the heart. If the heart is in the right place, then the words will follow, and then the actions will follow. So that was really inspiring to hear that. But like, what about at our stage when the heart is not there? Can we focus on the words and actions and reverse to the heart?
Yeah. That's our process of devotional service. Our heart is covered with dust. The mirror in the heart is covered with dust, and so our chanting, we are engaged in Kriti Sadhya. We are engaged in sadhana bhakti of using our words and our body in service. But when it turns to the point where this go up one line, hoping for earn it, yes, Shri Shashamukshamano, that is derived from the heart. That earnestness is derived. We can't just by action, we can do actions quite mechanically, but that earnestly, that Shushamikshamaano is coming from the heart. That earnest desire for Krishna service, that's coming from the heart. And so we have that. I think we all have an inkling of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be here. Jai Shri Gaura Prabhupada. We all have an inkling of it, but that's what we're fanning, and that's what our continual chanting and our different sadhanas are doing to help keep uncovering that, so that we live in the heart level rather than just our body and words level. Because yeah, we've seen there are people who only act on the body and words level, and they're not so much depth, and they end up going away at some point. So we have to. So yeah, it's a reciprocal thing. Both things is just like, oh, you take prasadam. We give a complete stranger prasadam. There's some mercy there. They're using that, and then okay, what is this all about? They're getting, so it goes that way, but then it's this wonderful pendulum that goes, and from my heart to my actions increase my heart, and it goes back and forth.
Ananda had a question on Zoom.
Who?
Ananta Vallabha.
Oh, Haribo Ananta. Haribo.
Okay, I guess he wants me to read it. Question, we see how Lord Brahma, leading the demigods, made prayers of surrender when Krishna appeared, but seemed to forget who Krishna was later. How does this forgetfulness happen? How can we remove this pendulum of surrender and forgetfulness?
Forgetful later?
How can we remove this pendulum of
No,
surrender?
but he said Brahma forgot later.
Yeah, because initially he made the prayers when Krishna
Oh,
appeared.
in the womb. Yes,
Yeah.
he was expecting Ishvara Krishna to come.
Oh, okay.
He was expecting Krishna, Supreme Personality. Oh, and that's one thing I wanted to. Prabhupada is so expertly, and I'll get back to this question. What was the? How can we what?
Remove this pendulum, like sometimes surrendering, sometimes forgetting.
Yeah, I think we can't. I mean, we by removing is meaning that we are 100% Krishna conscious, and then our focus is just like only on Krishna, Stavaram Jaganam. You know, that's how to get there is our practices of devotional service itself. You know, the devotees, one devotee asked Prabhupada one time, how can we become sincere? And Prabhupada said, well, how do you become a drunkard? You hang out with other drunkards. How do you become sincere? You hang out with those who are sincere. You hang out, you spend your time with devotees, and that's your association. And then again, that we get from them, and then we can serve them. We hear those processes, those 6 exchanges. We can serve them. We can inquire from them. We can give them prasadam gifts, and they may give us prasadam and gifts, and they may give us good instruction. So that is also a nice pendulum to want to keep. But the first point, anyway, I'm all over the place now. There was another point I thought of. Oh, Supreme Personality. Brahma was seeing. He was expecting Ishvara Parama Krishna. He was expecting Ishvara Krishna. But Prabhupada, me and my wife, we read aloud to each other every day. And sometimes, this is something in my head I have to fix, because, I'm reading the purports of the Bhagavatam. And I would say that personality of Godhead. And you think, well, I could just say, the Supreme Lord said, or we could cut it just so that my voice can last a little longer in this read. So, but I'm thinking, well, what is the importance? How come Prabhupada used that term so much? He could have just said, and Krishna did this, or the Lord did this, or the Lord said that. You could say, oh, it's so much more efficient. But no, it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna did this, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, did this. And it's giving us that we can't lose sight. And so that's the warning we hear in the 9th canto. Preparing for the 10th canto hearing is, don't ever forget he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma, don't forget he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He may be acting in his Satya Sankalpa Shakti, where he wants to be just a child and playing with his friends, but he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's a nice appreciation, and when we read it again and again and again, all of Prabhupada's books, everything he's saying is Supreme Personality. Does anybody else notice that? When you read that it's boy, you could have just said the Supreme Lord or the Lord or Krishna or he, but no, it's the Supreme Personality. I think he loved that term. He must have loved that term because it was conveying us, don't forget who he is. He's a supreme person and he has a personality. And what is that personality? He wants to be a cowherd boy. It's mind-boggling, you could say. And I think I'm over time. He has such potency. He just walks in the room. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.